I'm Tony Horgan and this is Volca Tips. You might know me from my Korg Volca Expert guides, which you can find online by searching Volca Expert. You can find me on Twitter at @TheTonyHorgan. Today we're going to talk about the Volca Keys. Many people tell me the Volca Keys is their favourite Volca, but just as many people tell me that it never makes the kind of sounds that they want. They don't know why. Well, here are 2 tips. The most important thing with the Volca Keys is to let it warm up first. Now, when you turn the Volca Keys on, it's almost certainly going to be out of tune. So, turn it on, leave it in the environment that you're going to use it, and let the auto-tuning do its work for about 10 minutes or 15 minutes. If you're bringing it from a cold environment to a very warm environment, maybe from the back of a van onto a hot stage under lights, you might need to leave it longer. You can see the Volca Keys tuning itself if you look through the side of the case near the octave select knobs or the voice mode knob, or if you look through the bottom by the serial number, you'll see 3 red LEDs. Now when you're not using the Volca Keys, these lights will flash intermittently, and this is the Volca Keys tuning each of the 3 oscillators. And it will keep adjusting these for as long as it's turned on and not actually in use. If you want to know if the Volca Keys is in tune, the easiest way to do it is to turn the detune knob all the way down, put it into poly mode and play a chord. If the chord sounds good, it's in tune. If it doesn't, it's out of tune. Okay, so once it's in tune, we can move on to tip number 2. Tip number 2 today is actually a few tips rolled into one, but mostly what we're talking about here is using the sustain control to create variations in a single pattern. If you create a pattern with long and short notes within the same pattern, so notes that are sustained and not sustained, then they will sound different as you play them back. However, if you take the sustain knob all the way down to minimum, in effect you remove the sustain part of the sound, so you just have a very short sound that's made up of the attack slope, the decay curve, and then there's no sustain because that's all the way down. You're already at 0 volume and there's no decay. So if you play a pattern now, the long notes and the short notes will all sound roughly the same. Then as you start to increase the sustain, you'll start to hear differences in the longer notes and the shorter notes. This pattern still sounds a bit dull, but once you put it through a delay effect, it really comes to life. Here we're using a Korg Mini KP2. If you offset the tempo of the delay from the tempo of the Volca Keys, then you can get a more funky effect. So the tempo of the keys here is set roughly to 120 BPM, which is the tempo of the keys when the tempo knob is in the central position. And the Mini KP2 is set to 120 BPM too. So if we reduce the Mini KP2 tempo to about 116, then you'll hear the notes falling in a slightly more funky and less predictable pattern. Once you add a few other tweaks like filter cutoff, things get much more exciting. Okay, that's all from me. You can find me on Twitter at @TheTonyHorgan, and you can find my Volca guides by searching Volca Expert. See ya!